When the darkness falls, when the shadows become dark and black, the silent pall of evil settles upon the earth. Who dares to search? Who dares to see what walks in the night? If you dare, welcome to Brandon's Tomb of Terror, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the Tomb of Terror, brought to you once again by Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottling plant. Once again, I'm your host, Pastor Gratu Orloff, and we're here to look at comic books and antiques and all that stuff. And just went out and got cheeseburgers for my wife and I, and for my wife and me. I'll speak grammatically correctly. And it was a little hard to get out of the driveway because the snow plows had plowed the street and piled up snow right at the edge of the. I had to get out a shovel and shovel snow just to get my car out of the driveway, and then getting back in wasn't that fun either. It's about 19 degrees now, and we got a bright sun, and some of the snow is starting to melt from the monumental snowstorm here in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday. So this is that's the trail of my car getting out of the driveway. But anyway, this is the state of the natural disaster we experienced, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back in. Got a letter in the mail from John Gores, the famous animator. I didn't really realize how famous he was. Everyone, it seems to say, he's a legend. I just thought, I didn't realize it. And then I meet him through the show, and he commissioned me to do some paintings, and I see his animation on YouTube, and it really is spectacular. But I didn't realize, we talked to Damon Packard in Hollywood, and he says, oh yes, he's great. Everyone loves John Gores. And I got a little miniature package, so I'm eager to see what's inside, and we'll do that, ladies and gentlemen. So this is episode 6. Where are we at? This must be 680, I think, of the Gratu, Tomb of Terror. I think that I don't know. YouTube, the head of YouTube just resigned yesterday, saying she wants to spend more time with her family. But I thought maybe if I change the name of the show, maybe if I'm shadow banned, maybe then I'll get more subscribers. But we got about 3-4 new subscribers, so I don't know. Maybe it's gonna work. I don't know. But let's head on up. See what's in this envelope. It's very mysterious. I've already opened it with some scissors, just so you didn't see me fumbling around on the show. Oh, I need to turn this light off because of climate change, ladies and gentlemen, and Greta Thunberg's tears. It's funny how Greta Thunberg and AOC you don't hear anything from them about what happened in Ohio. It seems like that would be upsetting to them. Maybe because they're Trump supporters that live in that area of the country. I don't know, man. A little bit of hypocrisy there, I smell. Well, let's get back to the comic books, because we're about to get into some really good ones, as I recall. All right. And remember, good times begin with Dr. Pepper, ladies and gentlemen. It's the light and lively taste. Now let's plug you guys in, man. So, I'm home today, and Did a show this morning that you've probably already seen, possibly, maybe not. All right, fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Oh, I just got a new box out. Okay. All right, let's see what's in this envelope. Oh, this is... I hate this because it's mad wrapping paper. Look at that. And I'm tearing it and ruining it. Let's not tear that anymore. Let's slide out what's in here. What is that? Oh. Okay, so that's that. Let's see what we've got here. It says, "Hey, Gratu and company. Here's some odds and ends just hanging around and driving me insane, so here, you deal with it. And P.S. Still don't let them hear you breathe." Look at this amazing portrait he did of the blind dead. I don't know why he commissions me to do paintings when he can do stuff this good. I mean, that's really good. I'm keeping all the letters and things I get, everything with his artwork in a specific file, because someday it's going to be worth millions. I mean, it really is good. So, it says Biohazard. It's a Biohazard bag. Oh boy, what do we have here? And inside it says All Souls Day, remembering your loved ones. And what do we have inside? I open it up. What am I gonna find? Oh, something's taped inside of here. What will it be? So yes, guys, instead of throwing things away, just mail them here, and I'll enshrine them all the things that you would have just thrown away and they would have gone to a landfill will become part of my insane museum. Oh, we need more light, don't we? Hold on. Is this enough light? I don't know. Has there been enough light in the last few episodes? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Wasn't crooked enough. Okay, so inside we have all these things like this sticker. Homemade sticker, another thing that I need to put with his artwork. Looks like some more homemade stickers. That looks like footage I've seen coming out of Ohio. And these little cutesy skulls. Another homemade sticker. These are all hand drawn. These aren't printed. This is amazing. What else do we have? More sketches. Looks like a pencil sketch, possibly. More drawings. He must produce hundreds of drawings every day, and he just needs to find what am I going to do with all these drawings? I'll just mail them off to Pastor Gratu Orloff. Oh, that's a good one. That's really good. I like that. All of them suitable for framing. It's amazing how much entertainment can come in such a small envelope. What else do we have here? Some little memory cards and in memory of Robert Lee Brown. I'll put this over here. I'm going to keep keeping all this artwork together in memory of, these must be little cards that you get at funerals or something. Let's see. In the back it says, Sadia, age 6, in agony as guinea worms emerge from her feet. It says it feels more painful than stepping on fire coals or being cut. How do you know what it feels like to step on fire coals? Where do you get this stuff, John Gores? This is 2 flag stickers. Another another skull. Oh, there's more inside. A stick of bazooka. Oops. Stick of bazooka bubble gum. With the little comic strip. Wow. There's a lot of stuff crammed in here. And another one of these post-apocalyptic little sketches from John Gores. So that's a lot of stuff packed into such a tiny envelope. So all this artwork's going to go back downstairs with in the John Gores file. Anyone else want to send me artwork? I'll be glad to display it here. It's kind of like Bill Kelly. If you grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you remember on, I think it was on the local NBC affiliate, Channel 5, on Sunday mornings, he had this show called The Children's Hour. And he would read the Sunday funnies. He had kids there, you know, it was a kid's show. And kids would send in artwork, I think, and he would show it. I think Mr. Peppermint did that too. Mr. Peppermint was on the rival channel, the ABC affiliate. His name was Jerry Haynes in real life, but he played Mr. Peppermint. He was kind of like a Captain Kangaroo type local kid show host. And he had little puppet friends, and they later changed the name of the show to Peppermint Place, and it ran from probably 1960 all the way up to maybe 1980, early 80s. And his son, Jerry Haynes' son, is Gibby Haynes, who's the lead guy in the Butthole Surfers, a punk band. Okay, we were looking at Marvel Premiere, if I'm not mistaken. Possibly, yes, we were. And because I remember showing Man Wolf, J. Jonah Jameson's astronaut son who turned into a werewolf because of a rock he picked up on the moon. And here's this, I think I was probably showing this Ant-Man comic, which, and I was talking about the Ant-Man movie that came out yesterday and how it's not getting very good reviews. Here's Ant-Man 48. How well I remember buying this at Lone Star Comics back in the late 70s, 79, yeah, on comics for 40 cents. Here's issue 49, which features the Falcon. And this is when the Star Trek movie was coming out. You gotta watch these fan-made Star Trek shows on YouTube. They're really well done. Star Trek Continues is the one that just ended a few years ago. I was telling you on a previous episode that Paramount doesn't mind when fans recreate the sets and use the music and make shows, except they started to mind when they realized the fan productions are better than the ones they're making themselves for Paramount Plus. So they now say you can't make a full hour show. You can't go over 15 or 20 minutes. You have to make a little miniature short because they didn't want the competition. So much for that. Here's Alice Cooper his comic book first appearance made to look like an EC comic, except they can't fully make it look like an EC comic because they have to put this ridiculous UPC code there, or else they would have had another circle here. But Alice's first comic book appearance, yeah. I bought this as a kid. It's done in kind of a humorous early 50s EC Mad comic book style. It's, I don't know, I don't really keep abreast of the market, what these things are going for, but I imagine that, I'm guessing that's probably a $40 comic. I'm probably wrong, maybe less. But it has appeal not as just to comic book people, but to Alice Cooper fans. And probably most people into Alice Cooper music are also going to like comics, or at least older comics. Because rock and roll and comics are really the same thing. It's all part of kid culture, rebellious culture, comic books, hot rods, jukeboxes, everything that that made being a kid and a teenager fun in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's what I call rock and roll culture, and comic books are part of that. Not today. There is no real, I mean, today the music's bad, the comics are bad, everything's pathetic today. Here's, let's see, that was issue 50. 51, I don't know if it was a Black Panther issue, but 52 was a Black Panther issue, and he's up against the Klan. Notice it's weird. That's done in the Kiss. That's done like the Kiss logo. Look at that. Klan is written in the same font, which is pretty weird. Yeah. Remember that the Ku Klux Klan was a Democrat organization, and that the NRA was fighting against the Klan back, and it was helping arm African Americans against the Klan back then. They don't want you, Democrats don't really want you to remember that was, you know, today they have Antifa, back then they had the Ku Klux Klan. Here's the coming of Caleb Hammer, issue 54. Looks a little familiar, possibly. Looks like Marvel's trying to do their version of Jonah Hex. To me, Caleb Hammer, kind of forgotten today. I don't know if they brought him back. Maybe they brought him back as a teenage girl or something. Okay, this is out of order, isn't it? No, it isn't. I don't know what 55 was, but 56 is Dominic Fortune. And layouts by Howard Chaykin. Finished art, Terry Austin. And the script, I always thought it was David Michelin, but everyone online on YouTube pronounces it David Michelini. And okay, well, I guess it could be that. But as a kid, I didn't have anyone around me telling me how to pronounce these names, so I did my best. It kind of looks a little bit like you're looking at an American flag comic. But anyway, I don't know if this character has been brought back either. Some of these characters they were trying them out in Marvel Premiere. This issue is one of those that you find in dollar bins all the time, but maybe not anymore because they're doing a Wonder Man TV series, I think, now. So all the speculators are buying this up. Wow, it's Wonder Man. He's going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, excuse me. So, big hairy deal. Here's Gregory, a bat. You can see inside his guts. And I remember these little rubber wiggling things. I could have sworn I had a Spider-Man. But the Red Skull and the Doctor Strange, I've only seen pictures of them online. I've never seen them in person. Okay, this is how I found out about... No, it's not true. I knew about Doctor Who from a book I had as a kid, Monsters Who's Who, and it had stuff about the Daleks and everything. But I hadn't when this came out. Doctor Who had not yet played on TV in the United States, so this was something like I didn't know about. And the art in here is really good because they're just reprinting right from the Doctor Who comics over in England, and the British comic artist had a different style that they came. It's like the 70s. You had all these artists from the Philippines coming over with this great style and this great way that they inked. And it seems like in the 80s, all these artists, like in this case Dave Gibbons, came over from England, and they'd worked on like 2000 AD, which is a tabloid comic book there, and they had a real interesting style too. Here's the next issue, issue 58. I'm sure these are sought after by Doctor Who fans, or maybe not. What do I know? But it's definitely that British style, which then they brought over reprints from England of Judge Dredd, and that was the big one, you know. And I love that. Here is Star-Lord. The character. I'm sorry, I'm sealing this up. It's issue 61. So he had blonde hair in the comics as opposed to having darker hair as Chris Pratt does in the movies, but it's all right. Our world premiere, 61. Okay. Then, speaking of character, he wasn't yet in the Guardians of the Galaxy because at that point, here's Marvel Presents. This is a 25-cent issue. This is Guardians of the Galaxy, the way that they were in the 70s. When I remember the Guardians of the Galaxy, they looked like this. Now, some of these characters appeared at the end of the last Guardians of the Galaxy, and if you waited till after the credits, there was a little stinger, and Sylvester Stallone was playing one of them, hinting that they would be back in the next movie. I haven't heard any rumors or even anyone talking about them coming back in the next movie. But, I mean, this guy was in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies as the guy that kind of was the father figure to Star-Lord. This guy, Yondu, who has the big fin. But he was played like a truck driver from Tennessee, you know. He's by Michael Rooker, who's a friend of James Gunn. Michael Rooker also played Henry Lee Lucas in a really good 1980s movie called Henry, which had a Cramps song in it. I'm trying to remember other movies besides Wednesday, the TV series that had Cramps songs. There was a vampire movie that I remember was pretty good, but I can't remember the name of it. Something like Into the Night or something. I don't know. It was some movie in the 80s that had a Cramps song. Man, what was that? It was pretty good. Mid-80s. Not the Lost Boys. I didn't like that. And that director wouldn't have been cool enough to put a Cramps song on. Okay, so that was here's number 4. That's marked at $8 at Duncanville Books. The red dot, though, tells me I think that it's half price. I probably paid $4 for it. But then I also have one, and I probably paid $4 of it, not realizing I already have it in my collection. It's typical of me. I buy things over and over again. But, ooh, I love how white pages are in this. Sometimes the print would be in the mid-70s, a little bit off. I don't know if you're seeing that on your TV, but it's a little blurry. It makes you think, oh, do I need glasses? Well, I do need glasses, but print's not quite right. But yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy didn't have that lineup that you see in the movies until just a few years before that movie came out. So it seems like, yeah, that's how that Michael Rooker character, Yondu, looked in the comics. I guess that, I don't know what first issue the lineup that appears in the movie with Groot and with Rocket Raccoon and all that, whatever issue that first, I imagine that would be a high dollar book, or should be, because those movies are consistently good. And having said that, I'm jinxing the third one but I have faith in James Gunn. I would totally. The only problem I have with James Gunn, like I say, is his Twitter history and his politics. But he makes really darn good comic book movies, so I am optimistic about what he's going to do with DC. I mean, his spot-on depiction of Starro, the Justice League villain, and the last Suicide Squad movie. That movie was so much fun. Did I just show you? So I have 2 copies of this issue. I mean, I think I bought this one, actually. This is a childhood copy. I actually bought this one off the rack. I remember that. And then, yeah, it would be cool if he brought in this lineup. I have a feeling there's going to be some characters biting the dust at the end of the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But James Gunn is walking. That's his last movie for Marvel. He's already over at DC now, planning the future of the DC universe in movies, and I'm sure that will go well. If the world doesn't end first. I mean, we're on the brink of World War III, and we'll see. Marvel Presents 7. I have 1 copy, 2 copies of that. I'm pretty well stocked on. Well, no, I'm not, because I don't have issue 8. I'm missing issue 8. So if you're willing to trade issue 8 for one of these, I have multiple copies of, like issue 9. Here's a copy. Here's another one. If I could trade some of my extras. If you're watching this and you see I've got extras of something, and then I say, oh, I'm missing an issue, I'm totally amenable to trading. We can talk about, we can talk about it on the phone or whatever. Just send you my phone number. Guardians of the Galaxy 10. I enjoyed talking to Myra Greenblatt yesterday. We were sharing our experiences watching. We were both watching one of the comic book YouTubers and sharing how much we loved that show. And he told me Man from Atlantis, I was showing you the Man from Atlantis comic, that it's on Tubi TV, which I always called Tubby TV, because I didn't get it. That, it's like a picture tube on a television set. Tubi TV. I thought, well, it's Tubby TV, because if you sit and watch it too long, you'd get tubby, like Pastor Orloff, right? From sitting watching too much television. The tube, the boob tube, as my mom used to call it. Here's 12. Ooh, this is in rough shape. It's got some rough damage up here. This was selling for $6, and then I got it for half price. Not realizing I already had it. All right. Then we come to the big historic thing. Is this the late 80s? When Alex Ross first appeared and did this, the history of Marvel from the point of view of a normal person. And he did these photorealistic paintings of the Marvel heroes. And then later, for DC, he did Kingdom Come, which was amazing. And that was when this guy came along. Because like I said, I get sick of comic books. Look at this. He's rescuing a mutant girl. All these evil, mutant-hating people. I'm always looking. Always going to the comic store. Something good has to come along. Yeah, everything's crummy. Something good will come along. And then Alex Ross came along. So I'm not going to be a curmudgeon and say nothing good can ever come along after 1975. Yes, it can. And maybe the whole industry can turn around. I'm not betting on that, but it could happen. Yeah. Here's Silver Surfer, and you're seeing reflected on his, I guess you would call it skin, his surface. You see the Human Torch. I think that's what you're seeing. No. Yeah, and then this series goes right up through this Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy. And what is this? Oh, this is a book about the making of the series. It's not really part of the, but it's got some great stuff. But it's got articles about. This is what you'd get if you bought Marvel stock back. When is this time period? The 90s, the mid 1994. They're telling you all about, how good your stock is doing. But then it all crashed. Marvel went bankrupt, and you lost your shirt. But that's a historic artifact. Then there was this Marvel's project. It wasn't done by Alex Ross, but they're trying to make, it's not. I didn't. It's actually written by Ed Brubaker. I was picking this up out of Dollar Bins, and since the art is not as good as Alex Ross, but not many artists are going to be as good as Alex Ross. So I still need to give this a shot. Let's see. I have issues 1. Do I have all the issues where I can actually start reading it? Okay, this is issue 3. Yeah, this artwork's actually pretty good. It looks like the artwork you'd see on those 1990s bubblegum cards. But Ed Brubaker, Eric Breen has taught me that that Brubaker is, this is 6 of 8. I don't have the complete series. Is like the best writer in comics today. So there is something good happening in comics today. Ed Brubaker, but I'd have to go to a comic store to buy those comics, and that's a ways away. I could drive an hour, but the cost of gas and everything. This comic, Marvel Saga #2, it's the whole history of the Marvel universe, and it's interesting. It's not really a traditional comic book. It has panels from the old comic books with text next to them explaining everything. I have a couple of copies of 3. It's something you can get very inexpensively, I think, unless something has changed in the comic book market. But as we get to Marvel S, we're almost to Marvel Team Up. Marvel Tales I have in another box in the other room. So we're going to skip past Marvel Tales. If you guys want to see the Marvel Tales covers, those are the comics that reprinted the 1960s Amazing Spider-Man comics. And those are in the other room, like I said. Okay, here's number 9. Number 9, not to sound like the Beatles, but I've got a ton of copies, 3 copies of number 9. Number 10. Number 11. It goes into all the, it's the official history of the Marvel Universe. Number 12. 13. It's an interesting little series. 15. It's just fun to read on a rainy day or something. 15. The other day I said I feel nostalgic for 1970s comics, but not. I love 1960s comics more than I do 1970s comics, but I don't feel nostalgic for 1960s comics because I was just learning to walk. I wasn't even aware of them when they were coming out, and you treat me like a dog, you expect me to smile. You say it. You said it there. Stone Cold Steve Austin. My wrestling clock. Okay, my nostalgia reminds you of your youth, but I think I was wrong when I was just rewatching a little part of one of the episodes a few episodes back. I guess I really am nostalgic for the 60s, all about the 60s. And how can you be nostalgic for it when you were born in 1965? You really weren't even aware of what's going on, really. Your first memories are probably going to be really from 69, 70. I guess it's almost like I feel I was there because my older brothers were 10 years older and they were there. And I inherited a lot of their stuff, their books and toys and stuff. And and I've always watched 1960s television shows, and I've watched 1960s commercials and gotten them on VHS cassette and DVD and watched them on YouTube. And I inhaled so much of the 1960s that I, listening to old radio air checks, listening to so much music of the 1960s and 50s, that I kind of feel like I was there in the 50s and 60s. I'm surrounded by 50s artifacts, 50s television, and 1940s radio, all these 1950s rockets. There's a 50s television there. I mean, I live in those time periods still today. So, yes, I am. I take it back. I am nostalgic for that time period. I do feel like I was around then. I'm not going to get all new age on you and call myself an old soul or something, but it's kind of like maybe, I don't know, it's like I was reincarnated, from some kid that was in there. But okay, Marvel Saga 20. Anyway, what's fun about today is listening to Alex Jones, and I don't know what is fun about today. Opening packages from John Gores. My Wonderful Wife. That's something cool about 2023. It's just there's not much being produced in the entertainment world, and now I realize the entertainment world is controlled by a bunch of Moloch worshipping, Satan, communist, Marxist, terrible people, and then I just don't really care much anymore about what's coming out of Hollywood or anything. Ooh, that's actually pretty nice. Always love Medusa. Okay, all right. Oh, we're coming into Marvel's Greatest Comics, which was Marvel's collector's item classics in the 60s. And all my Silver Age of this title, comics of this title, were in separate boxes. Anyway, this is reprinting. This is reprinting the first part of the Silver Surfer Galactus, the Galactus trilogy, which is yeah. So this is a super high dollar book in its original form. So that's issue 35. Issue 36 is the second part of the Galactus trilogy, and this is the one I actually have this original issue of Fantastic Four. I have the middle part of the Galactus trilogy. I think that's the one. Yeah, because the cover on this one doesn't have Galactus. It just has the Watcher, and but the original cover of this has them running. It's yeah, I got that. And I didn't buy it for that much money. I don't think I paid more than 30-something bucks for it, or maybe 25 at Lone Star Comics back in the early 80s. But then money was worth more then. So this would be the third part of the Galactus trilogy. This is a cheaper way to get them, although I think they edit a few panels here and there because they had a lower page count in the 70s and the 60s, I believe. Here's issue 41. I don't have 38, 39, and 40, but I probably have the original comic books of the Fantastic Four comics. The thing about these is sometimes they have new covers, sometimes they don't. That's 44. Then I don't have 45 or 46. Here's 47. And if they do reprint the original cover, they they have different colors. It's colored differently. There's nothing like this time period. Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four. Okay, and I have this original issue, this Fantastic Four. This is reprinting the first appearance of Warlock, which is him. So, people may be priced out of the market trying to buy that original comic book, especially with this Guardians of the Galaxy movie coming out with him in it. But people might start trying to buy this up as the next best thing that they could do. You know, there's a big crisis when Reed Richards stops shaving. Last time that happened was when he had to fight Galactus. This is just great stuff. Great. You guys, they really were Marvel's greatest comics. Fantastic Four was the best comic Marvel did in that time period. It was even better than Spider-Man. But the normal people don't appreciate it because they only know the movies, and the Fantastic Four movies have been somewhere between mediocre and terrible. And so people figure, oh, Fantastic Four. But everything came from the Fantastic Four. In the movies, Iron Man, everything came from Iron Man. That's not the way it was in the comics. Everything came from this. Now, I first became exposed to the Fantastic Four in Marvel Treasury Edition 2, and then this is one of the first Fantastic Four comics I bought. This is my childhood copy. This one here, this is the first issue I bought. All those other ones you just saw, I bought at a later time, but this one I bought as a kid, and I'll be able to tell you if I can read. October of 74. So when you have a date like that, you count back 2 months. So this would have been at the end of the summer in August of 74, right as I'm going into fourth grade. So that would tell me the Marvel Treasury Edition Fantastic Four probably came out in summer. So in third grade, I was buying tons of Marvel, but I was mainly buying Marvel Monster comics. Fourth grade, I became aware and started buying all these Marvel superhero comics, and then I bought there was this comic that reprinted the old Fantastic Four comics, and then there was the regular title. And the first one I bought of the regular Fantastic Four, Sue Storm was no longer, or Sue Richards was taking a sabbatical because she had a child, and Thundra, the Femizon, had taken over for her. The coloring on the original cover of this was so much better as far as that city behind the green guy, the awesome android. It looked so much better in the original printing. Well, this looks good too, but you got to see that original issue to see what I mean. It almost looks real back there. 54, sizzling battle action. Yeah, these are all ones I bought right off the rack. So they're the 25-cent era, but I'm not opening them looking to make sure the little value stamp is there, because I know it's there, because I would never have cut a comic book apart. 55. Man, I don't know if we want to look at all of these. Well, because these are all just reprint comics. Let's see if there's anything special. There's tons of them. Okay, let's just get past the Marvel's Greatest Comics. And then there's Marvel Spectacular that reprints old Thor stories, which were, yeah, if they could just make the movies look like that, but you know, they're never going to do that. So this was how you, as a kid in the mid-70s, this is early 70s, 20 Cent, would read these older Thor stories. Unless you had an older brother that had the comics, or were able to luck out and go to a flea market and get the old comics. So it was really a revelation in the summer of '77 when I saw an article in the newspaper that there was a new store open. It was a comic store, and it was run by a guy named Buddy Saunders, who had been an art teacher, and he retired from being an art teacher and decided to open a comic store there. It was called Lone Star Comics, and I went as soon as I could get my mom to drive me. And I remember my uncle, when he was in town, would drive me there, and he'd always wind up paying for $25 at least, which was a lot of comics back then. Where the comics, he'd just say, buy whatever you want. He was a character. 12. I'll tell you about him sometime. Anyway, I was looking up the other day online to see if there were pictures of the original front of the original Lone Star Comics, which was a store smaller than the room I'm in, and had a big painting of Spider-Man on the front window. But there are no pictures online. But there is the article from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that I read as a kid, which I probably clipped, and it's somewhere in my collection of, so I remember saving it, of Buddy Saunders standing there with all the comics in front of him, and they're announcing the store opening. It's online, but you have to get through a pay window. You have to subscribe to getting, access to these news, the news files from the Star-Telegram. So I didn't do that, but it's online. Someday maybe I'll do that. So, but my Uncle Guy. Guy is a French name. It's probably actually pronounced Guy or something like that. I don't know. But we were, my mom's side of the family was a French side of the family. My Uncle Guy was this cowboy with a big hat and fancy boots and big buckle, but he looked just like Don Knotts. But he was a tough guy. And he sounded like Don Knotts too. If Don Knotts was very profane, I never heard him say the F word, but he used all the other words that people of his generation, and his generation being the World War II generation, he had flown planes in World War II. So he was my mom's older brother. And boy, was it fun to listen to him telling stories. And he'd always, he lived down in, where did he live? Okay, well, he lived in my mom grew up in San Antonio. It seems like he was living in Houston for a while, but then he was living in San Antonio again. He became an air traffic controller, but he had these great stories about World War II and being on the islands and seeing some weird bird and how it would land after flying. The bird was just real clumsy and would fall and flop over when it landed, and he couldn't hear too well after the roar of the planes in World War II, and he explained what he couldn't hear was high-pitched voices. So when we went into a restaurant and there was a waitress that was 18, 19 years old, he couldn't even hear her voice at all because it was too high-pitched. You'd have to say, what did she say? Okay, here's a key issue for all you key issue morons. Those people don't watch this channel. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be nicer. I'm trying to be less profane and nicer to people in the comic community. It's okay. No matter how you collect, it's all okay. If you don't ever want to read a comic and just want to put it on your wall in plastic, it's okay to be an idiot. It's perfectly all right to be just a complete asshole. You're accepted here in the comic book community. Just because you're a money-grubbing bastard, it's all right. Anyway, it's the first appearance of Werewolf by Night. Notice he looks nothing like the guy that played him in the movie, and the werewolf doesn't look anything like that, not movie, TV show, whatever. But anyway, I think Marvel Spotlight #1 was it Red Wolf, I think. Well, I don't think I have that, but I have the first Werewolf by Night. I didn't buy this when it came out. I got this later, not for much, because I was always buying the horror comics, and the Marvel horror comics, people didn't used to buy them. It was just me. I thought I was the only one that cared about this and the Warren magazines and Vampirella. I was the only guy in the 80s buying that. Everyone else was looking for X-Men and whatever. And I was looking for this. And the horror comics, a lot of times stores didn't even put them out in the boxes. They figure that won't sell any more than a romance comic or a Western. Here's 3. Oh, excuse me. And here's 3. I have another 3. Here's 4. I was pulling this out and I thought, some kid punched holes in the comic. You know how kids would try to keep their comic inside the binders so they could read it in class, and they'd put 3 holes in it so they would fit in the rings of their binder. I'm pulling it out just now out of the box, and I see a hole. No, that's the moon that's turning him into a Werewolf by Night. See, I always love this cover. If I ever have a comic book wall, which will never happen, more than likely, that would be on the wall. And since it was so wonderful, looks like I bought it twice. The Werewolf by Night comics I bought as a kid. I think were all the regular title. This is his first appearance in Marvel Spotlight, and then he got his own title. Those are the ones I think I bought. I think the first Marvel Spotlight I bought as a kid off the spinner rack that I can picture in my mind right now, down the street from our townhouse in Hampton, Virginia. I bought this, and it's Ghost Rider, the first appearance of this version of Ghost Rider. So this is a high dollar book, and it's my childhood copy. So it's not something I would ever sell, because you don't sell your childhood copies. It's kind of like not something you should do. It indicates that you don't really love it, in which case, really, you're welcome in the comic book community. I hate the word community, neighborhood. But if you don't really love comics, you're not welcome here. If you really love comics, then great. But if you look at them as investments, I was talking about this guy in the last video that I watched his video. He came into 2 comic stores. They kicked him out because he was just some guy that was in there with slabs trying to trade them for, where are your key issues? And he was like outraged that he was kicked out of these stores. And then he said he traded one of his slabs for, I didn't see any key issues I wanted, and I didn't want to flip through these bins looking for key. Because one of the store owners, he says, well, where are the key issues? And he says, well, they're all in here. And it's like he was incensed. He had to look through all these other comics to look for the key issues. So he says, I wound up trading one of my slabs for some Magic the Gathering cards. And oh boy, if you're into Magic the Gathering, man, get the heck out of town, man. That's like the lowest. I don't know. What's the lowest? Is it collecting Pokemon? I don't know. I don't think, even if I had been a kid in the 1990s, which I was, and I was in my 30s, if I was a kid in the 1990s, I don't think I would have gotten into Pokemon. There's just nothing cool about it. I mean, I guess Pikachu's cool, and there was some character that had this real haunting way of singing. I think it hypnotized people. I think it was called Jigglypuff or something. I remember it had this haunting song. I thought that was kind of cool. Who knows? 7, 8. Here's issue 8. These are all ones I bought as a kid. You know. They were preserved the best that a second grader, I was in 2nd grade when they came out, could preserve them. So that's 8. Then I don't have 9, 10, and 11. I'm not sure if they were Ghost Rider issues or what. I can look it up later. You can do the same thing. Issue 12 is also one that I bought as a kid. Is this the first appearance of Son of Satan? Yeah, I'm thinking it is Ominous Origin Issue. Now he was turned into a. They made him into a television series called Hellstrom, and it was. I don't even think I watched more than 3 minutes of it. He looks nothing like this. Son of Satan 13. I'm still thinking that this was based on something they did in National Lampoon called Son O' God, which was done by Neil Adams, and because it looks very similar to that character. And but anyway, I don't know. Maybe if there's some interview and alter ego, someone will admit to that. This is 14. 15. It still amazes me today that there was a comic book on the stands called The Son of Satan, and I don't remember anyone. Well, I was kind of aware. I paid attention to the newspapers and television when I was a little kid, and it seems like I would have heard if there was some outcry over this comic. It was later in the 70s when all the outrage started about satanic influences in music and things, and cartoons. And they never really mentioned these. Now, of course, yes, he's the son of Satan, but he's a good guy, and he's fighting against his father, who's Satan. But it's weird, and Marvel had several Satans. They had a character, seems like a character called Satanish, and then there was Mephisto, and there were several devils, and then in this they established, I'm trying to remember how they tied it all together, but then they show Satan in the Ghost Rider comic, and then, so it's weird. It's almost like at first they were afraid that Satan might sue them if they used his name, so they were using all these other names, then they just went ahead and did it. It's kind of like Marvel, the big underground crime family in the Marvel comics is the Maggia, Maggia, not the Mafia. They didn't want to use the name Mafia. They were afraid maybe there'd be a knock on the door, so they gave them another name because they didn't want to offend the Mafia. Of course, The Godfather, as far as I know, nothing happened to them making that movie, but maybe stuff, anyway. Marvel didn't want to offend the Mafia or Satan, so they changed their names, but then later they got brave and just flat out had a comic with Satan in giant letters. It's really kind of amusing. Oh, Comic Crypt of Castle Hills just put up a video. It just flashed on my screen. So as soon as I upload this, I'm going to have to go watch Comic Crypt of Castle Hills. If you're not subscribed to that, do it now. And please subscribe to this. I'm trying to figure out if changing the name of this show will increase my subscriber count. But we'll see. I'm trying to get up to 500, and I think I'm 13 people away from that. So if you could tell your friends, family, and enemies, and neighbors, how many issues of 19 do I have? It seems like I've been showing you this. Okay, I guess I only have 2 copies of 19. This is also something people weren't buying, and you could easily get this. Maybe you still can. I don't know. They just kept going with it. He's kind of like the thing. Thor, Hercules. These were characters that these were actual gods that whole civilizations once worshipped. Actually worshipped and believed they were real. And so, you wait 1,000 or 2 years and then you turn them into comic book characters. But here, there's millions of people, Christians and Jews, that believe that Satan is real, and you're putting out a comic where he's a comic character. And you're not waiting thousands of years for that religion to die off, which it won't die off because if you pay attention to the news, you realize that Satan is real, and he's in charge of this world, and unfortunately, I think we're in a time period that may have been prophesied in the Bible, and oh well. I think just have to stay strong. It's a terrible time. And I feel, and I just still can't believe that how little the news is covering what happened in Ohio. It's just being okay. This is this the first appearance of Satana, the devil's daughter? Who's still kind of on her dad's side, so therefore he's having to fight her. I think it could be. I could be wrong. Oh, Salty Cracker just put up a video. Okay, so I could be wrong. 25. It's only about 15, 16 years late, but Marvel did an adaptation of The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. I think there was an adaptation, I'm pretty sure that Dell did back when the movie came out in the very late 90s. See, that movie came out in the late 50s, and this adaptation is 25-cent era, probably 74, 75. I think they did an adaptation in Worlds Unknown of The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which was the sequel to Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. So they also waited that amount of time to do a sequel to this movie. And so since they did this, Marvel did an adaptation of The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, I guess they figured they'd do this one too. The Cyclops doesn't look exactly right, because believe me, I studied the Cyclops and drew a lot of pictures of him as a kid. And I loved that Cyclops. Blew my mind as a kid. I didn't finish the story a few episodes back. I get distracted. I was looking at one of those King Kong ads for December of '76 in one of these Marvel comics, and saying how excited I was, looking forward to that movie, and I was all excited. And then I saw the real King Kong movie on television from 1933, and then my mind diverted to something else. What I didn't get to say is, and then I actually saw the 1976 movie, and it was terrible. And I just wanted to point that out. And every time I do that, I hurt someone's feelings that really loved it as a kid. But it was not anywhere close to the real King Kong. They didn't have the dinosaurs, any of that. It was anyway. Had a great soundtrack from John Barry. This is the Scarecrow. I don't know that Marvel does anything with him today or really ever much after that. Here's Marvel Spotlight on the Submariner. Here is Marvel Spotlight on the Moon Knight. This is a pretty high dollar book, or was. I guess it still is. I bought this as a kid. All these I bought as a kid. I think that this is maybe the third appearance of the Moon Knight. He was in 2 issues of Werewolf by Night. He's basically Marvel's Batman. Mixture of Batman and the Shadow. At least he was originally. They made a terrible TV series that may have crashed the values of those books. So that's 28. Then I'm missing 29, 30, 31. Those might have been Moon Knight issues. I don't know. I do have 32 with the first Spider-Woman. I believe Spider-Woman and She-Hulk were created just to establish a copyright on those names so that other comic book companies couldn't come up with and put out a Spider-Woman. They wanted to make sure they had that copyright sewn up. So that's the original design of her costume. Some people hate it. I think it's okay. I think it's pretty great, actually. This is it's a wonderful drawing. In fact, I might make that the thumbnail for this episode, because it would fit just right on a widescreen television, right? So anyway, Spider-Woman later became a Saturday morning cartoon, and it's never been adapted into live action, and had a pretty long-running series. Here's Marvel Spotlight on Deathlock the Demolisher. He was adapted into a character in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. Didn't look anything like this. I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. past a few episodes. I determined, okay, they're not going to make this like Man from U.N.C.L.E. They're not going to make it like the comic book. It's not going to be James Bond-like. It's just going to be a piece of trash. So. And then Marvel Spotlight started over again. I hate when they do this. So they start Marvel Spotlight 1, Captain Marvel. All it does is confuse people. But now things are so confusing in the comic book collecting world with all the restarting of titles that it's just not even funny. Here's Dragon Lord, Marv Wolfman and Steve Ditko art. A character that didn't catch on. Marvel, so that's 5. With 6, the saga begins of Star-Lord. 6. Okay, then I don't have 7 and 8. Here's Marvel Spotlight on Captain Universe, number 9. It's got a bit of a crease in the center. I doubt that would be a subscription crease on Marvel Spotlight. More than likely, it's just some kid folded the comic. This is Steve Ditko art as well. Captain Universe is a guy in this issue. And the next issue appears to be a woman. I have to go back and reread these. It's been a bunch of decades, and try to remember why he changed sexes. But it's a very modern thing to do, right? He's like Dylan, right? Let's see, here's 11. You can... Okay, great. And then maybe they ended the series. That's the last one I have, I don't know. Then we move to Marvel Super Action, which reprints, in this case, an old issue of Captain America. I believe that's Captain America 100 that had that cover, wasn't it? So that's issue 1. Oh, when Lone Star Comics opened, I just saw that article in the paper. I probably got my mom to drive me there. Later, I would actually walk there, and it was a long way. If you watch some of my old episodes back when I lived in Arlington, I drive the way I used to walk on summer afternoons to go buy old 1960s Thor comics and issues of the National Lampoon, because they would sell them to me. It's a long ways, but anyway, actually not far, just a few blocks from where the Dallas Cowboys play now. They built a stadium right there, right next to where Lone Star Comics used to be. First time I ever went in there. In a comic store with comics everywhere, new comics, the smell of comics, new comics back then. It was just wonderful. This is one of the comics I bought, I remember. Is this issue of Marvel Super Action that reprints these old stories, Marvel Boy. So yeah, this is something I got in that summer of 77, that wonderful summer when Star Wars came out and a comic book store opened in my town. For Marvel Super Action number 5, now they're reprinting old Tales of Suspense stories. You don't hear that very often here. Back when I lived in Texas, you heard sirens all the time. Now, is that police or is that... I hope that's not an ambulance. Hope someone didn't get hurt in the snow, 5. Here's number 8. Now, probably what this is 2 issues of Tales of Suspense put together. This wonderful. That's
at the front door doorbell.
Someone's at the doorbell. I better go get that. Hello? Hey, Gus. No, I heard the siren, but is it 301 North Taylor? No. What could have called it? That was interesting. I don't know what you heard, but you remember that siren I just heard? They were coming for this house. And so I heard the little doorbell sound. So I went down and I heard some people saying, "Hey, are you all right?" There are about 6 emergency guys and girls in the house. And they said they'd gotten a call about an unresponsive female. And I said, well, maybe, I'm filming this show. Maybe Cleo's up in the attics watching television. And I said, well, maybe she's unresponsive. So I called up, Cleo, are you all right? And she said, yeah. And they said, this is 301. I don't get to give you my. They said, this address. And I said, yeah. And so, but I said, everyone's okay here. And so, they say, oh, we have the wrong address. And they go up, their emergency ambulance went off roaring. And I saw the sheriff's car roaring through the intersection real fast. So, I don't know. So there's snow tracked all over the floor downstairs, and the front door. How did they get in? Do they have a master key to? No, they kind of broke the lock, which is not a very. It's almost like a bathroom door thing. Anyway, they broke it. It won't lock anymore. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to call the sheriff's department and say my lock. Is there a way you can fix it? Anyway. But right now they're busy saving someone's life or something. So that, that's a first for the Tomb of Terror to have emergency workers show up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Here's Marvel Super Action 10. That's a big pain in the ass. I know I can't lock my door. It's Marvel Super Action number 11. 13. I guess I could get to the hardware store and get a new. But I don't really feel like that. I don't really have the money for that right now. This reprints the first Vision from Avengers. This is a lot cheaper way to get that issue. So anyway, Marvel Super Action was reprinting Avengers comics at that point. Marvel Superheroes was reprinting issues of Tales to Astonish. Here they're reprinting, which was a comic that had half Hulk and half Submariner. So these are 1960s adventures being reprinted, sometimes with these wonderful new covers. This is issue 33. So you have these great 1960s Submariner stories. Look at this great artwork. Bill Everett art. Layouts by Jack Kirby and Bill Everett. What if I'd been on the toilet? They came in, man. How do you get a call about an unresponsive female? If it is unresponsive female, then how do they call? Or maybe someone called and they couldn't get through to someone, and then they called. I don't know what the deal is with that. Anyway, I hope whoever it is that is, if there is someone actually in danger, I hope they help them out. But Marvel Superheroes 34. 35. 36. Now these are wonderful comics, and it's a lot. They're a lot of fun to read, and you can. This is just. Oh man, people that look at all the sound effects because the Batman TV series was out. So they just do this insane amount of sound effects, boom, which later became Marvel's fan club. But you can just tell the instructions have come from on high. Put lots of sound effects in, because all these kids see Batman and then they're going to be buying the comics. They want to see sound effects, right, that pop up everywhere. See there, you can tell we're looking at reprints from 1966. Ooh, look at that. I was going to show you the ad coming up here. That's Savage Tales #2. Captain Strangelove selling Savage Tales #1. I wonder if he's already sold that. That would be a cool thing, though. Okay, so that's 38. There's another copy of 38. Just beautiful, beautiful colors. 39. Man, I wonder what that sounded like on your end. What all did you hear? I wonder. If I'd taken the I should have taken. I wouldn't have thought to take the camera down. I didn't think. Oh boy, the action that happens here. 40. So hopefully they're they come into the house with a mannequin there. I wonder if that scared them. And Alex Jones is playing on the television downstairs. That hopefully, I doubt they're liberals, but hopefully they weren't offended by Alex Jones playing on the television downstairs. But I'm sure we're the talk of the town right now with this ambulance and everything, police cars stopping in front of the house. 41. Everyone's wondering what happened to those newcomers. Oh, cool. This is issue 41. It's got a Mart Jewelers insert, which is sought after by some people, and that just means this was bought at a base exchange on an Air Force, Army, Navy base, something like that. The Birth of Hulk Killer. This is just great stuff. That's why I love that 1966 Marvel Superheroes cartoon so much, is it adapted the stories from back in this time period, which is what I really love, is the 60s. And then look at all the insane amount of sound effects that you've got. The Batman Adam West TV. Oh, it's the same one I just showed you. The Batman series had far-reaching effects. It was a huge phenomenon, you've got to understand. In the 1960s, the three biggest cultural events for kids. I'm not, you're probably say, well, the landing of the moon in Woodstock. No, it's the three B's. The Beatles, Bond, and Batman. Those were the big three for kids, those three B's. I was just thinking about this the other day. All these insane, like the Grammy performance the other night from some guy named Sam Smith or something, where he was dressed as Satan. And here's another 42. It's like how far things have gotten now. What I was thinking about, the Beatles sat down for a camera shoot, and we're going to put on the front cover of one of their albums. They were going to be sitting there in white outfits, covered in blood and raw meat, and dolls, missing limbs of dolls and cut up dolls, and they were going to be smiling, covered in bloody baby parts, basically. And they were going to put that out, and Capitol actually printed it up and was going to release it until someone said, what the heck are you doing? We can't release this to the United States. And so the ones that they printed, they pasted a new cover on top of it, so they didn't have to print a whole new cardboard cover. And they call that the butcher cover. And so people try to find copies of that issue of that album, and then they try to steam off and remove the outer pasted on new cover. and then it's worth, thousands of dollars. You have a Beatles Butcher cover, but it's just, can you imagine if that had actually gotten released and how the Beatles would be remembered today? I mean, it's still shocking that they had, they were kids. They were 20, 23, 24. Sometimes you make dumb decisions when you're that age, but who was it at Capitol Records that allowed that, or was going to allow that? It almost happened. It almost got to market, and that would have been a horrible thing. I'm a big Beatles fan, but I don't like that kind of stuff, man. That wouldn't have been good. This one I remember buying as a kid. This one I know is my childhood copy. Yes, all these sound effects. And of course, on the Marvel Superheroes 1966 cartoon, they would create the sound effects and show them just like they did in the Batman show. See, the Batman show came out in January of 66, and then the animated series came out in September of, did I say 76? 66. The Batman series came out. And then the cartoons, Hulk, Submariner,